Welcome to the Get Better Project, where your host Joe Bauer interviews the world's top fitness, endurance, and strength athletes to figure out what has propelled them to the top of their game.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
Listen, learn, and start getting better today. Here we go.
Today, I have the privilege of interviewing six-time CrossFit Regionals athlete Jon Gibson. He's not only awesome at CrossFit, but he's a super good dude. So if you get the chance to meet Jon in person, I highly recommend that you do that. And you are not going to be disappointed by this episode. He gives everything in this episode about how he trains, why he trains, his ups, his downs, his nutrition, all of it. So if you have any questions at all, highly recommend that you reach out to me or Jon personally. And I hope that you enjoy this episode because it is a good one. All right, without further ado, here we go with Jon Gibson. Jon, how's it going today, man?
Not too bad. How are you?
I am doing great. I'm excited because this is actually the first time that I've done an in-person interview on location. So you are the first. Welcome.
Yeah, this is very exciting. Thank you. Yeah, I feel blessed.
Yeah, so I'm excited. And for those people that are listeners to the podcast or regular listeners to the podcast, they're probably familiar with hearing you because you were on our last podcast where we talked about only training and we got into that a lot. So this podcast, we're going to dig in to you as an athlete, which I think is going to be really interesting. And I wish that actually we'd recorded some of the conversations that we've already had since I've been here at your gym. So for those people that don't know where we are, we're in Prince George, Canada, right? At your gym, Gibson's Landing.
Yep, Gibson's Landing Athletics.
Yeah. So for those people that didn't listen to the last podcast, which I highly recommend that you do, it's at thegetbetterproject.com/23. Give us your background. I'd love to hear, how you grew up, where you grew up, your history with sports and hockey, obviously, and then how that brought you to the competitive sport of CrossFit or fitness.
Yeah, totally. We kind of brushed over it, when Dave and I were on the last time. So I grew up, bit of a suitcase. So I was born in Vancouver, lived there for about 5 or 6 years. Then we moved to Calgary. I lived in Calgary from basically like grade 1 to grade 6. And there, I was, really into sports, played hockey, since I was like 4 or 5 years old, played baseball, played soccer. Actually in Calgary, I developed exercising-induced asthma and put on a bunch of weight and crushed Ichiban noodles raw, ate a lot of candy, and I definitely was a bit huskier as a kid. And so that, it was crazy too, because, I remember having like asthma attacks on the bench, and, it was a really weird area in my life too. And that lasted basically like from being a super skinny, wiry kid to being, a little bit overweight, a little more self-conscious, still super active. But then we, grade 6, we moved to Burlington, just outside of Toronto. And so, over to the eastern side, which is just a whole other world from a Western kid. And then from grade 7 to basically since I was till 2021, lived in Burlington. And then grade 7 to, I would say grade 9, I was still a bit that huskier kid. And then I got the flu. I grew a little bit. And then all of a sudden, things started to change. So I lost a bunch of weight. I still literally rely on that flu. I think I had the flu for like a month or 2 or something like that, it felt like, and I just shedded weight, and then I grew at the same time. And I think I watched Remember the Titans like 100 times at the same time. So I was doing like burpees and up downs and stuff like that. I don't know what I was doing, but
great movie, by the way.
Unreal movie, right? And so, and so like all of a sudden, like it came from, hockey tryouts where guys didn't even recognize me on the ice. So that was pretty cool. And, it was pretty much just from, I kind of mentioned it last time. My dad, he was, I asked him, I was like, why am I not making rep hockey? Why am I not making the next level? And he just, he always supported me, but never pushed me outside of, if I wanted to do something, I had to have I had to want it myself, right? And that was huge. But he said, you just don't work hard enough. And then that clicked. And then the flu happened and I grew, and it was all just like a nice storm that came in at the same time. So, but then, played junior hockey there for a number of years. Played in the BCHL back in Prince George. So that's kind of when I was 20. My parents moved back here. So I played a year here and then moved back to Hamilton. And then played Division III hockey for like half a semester in Philadelphia. Was unhappy with the situation, where I was, what was going on the ice and stuff like that. And then I indulged in the hockey player lifestyle maybe a little bit too much, enjoyed being a sick beauty more than I enjoyed actually being a hockey player. And so me and my buddy ended up shutting it down. And that was always been a big regret that I didn't push through it and I didn't kind of get my head out of my ass. But I think it's all a bit of a blessing too. The year after that was a big turning point. I could have gone probably one of two directions. I could have been that guy on the bar stool right now or talking about the glory days. But I saw Rich Froning on, TSN 4 or ESPN 4 for Americans, the Ocho at the time. And, I was just like, I could do that. Right. Those guys look jacked. I don't right now. It seems like something I've done a power clean, before, like how hard could this be? Right. So got my level 1, started coaching at a local gym, and then just kind of ran with it ever since. And then the CrossFit background from there is I qualified for regionals my first year, 6 months in. I definitely couldn't have done that now. The time, the quality just wasn't there, of course.
And what year was that?
Oh God. Just looking at the wall, 2013, 14.
Okay.
I think one of the two. Still the old Canada West.
Yep.
I did really well on a few. I think it was the hundreds workout with the 100 wall balls, chest to bar, pistols, dumbbell. I was the only guy to do 100 wall balls unbroken. Singled the chest to bar because couldn't really do chest to bar. But that's I have
Nice.
little claims of fame to regionals. Like, do something like really cool and then just be horrific at everything else. So, did the 100 wall balls, smashed it, felt good. I was in my Nike Freeze. I think I did all my pistols on my toes. I had high Under Armour socks on, probably still from my hockey bag. And then I just ragdolled that 70-pound dumbbell, just full spinal too. Like we were talking about, like in my element, just curved, just ripping it off the floor, not giving a shit. So, and then, then competed at regionals ever since. So 6 straight years. So I guess I could, from last year, you just minus 6 years, and that's when I started. But 6 regionals. I qualified for, there's one I had to pull out where it was the snatch ladder. I think that one was with the strict Nate or the regionals Nate.
Yeah,
the strict
okay.
muscle ups and that. I had to pull out. I ended up busting up my shoulder pretty good, and I couldn't snatch, couldn't do anything really. So I had to pull out of that one. Definitely qualified out of the open, which I was pretty proud of. And then the next year I came back. I was one of the guys that blew the pec, so I got sniped out of the sky on the dips.
Did you?
Yeah. So that sucked. It all stemmed from the bunged up shoulder, but I knew it right away. Yeah, I still finished the workout somehow, just grinded it out.
Yeah.
But after, I was just like, something's gone, and so I had to pull out there. So I had, back-to-back years were pretty disappointing, and then. The year after, so the super regionals where Canada only let 5 guys in, or the CrossFit only let 5 Western Canadians in. That was the most stressful open of my life. My wife can attest. Like, I was just a mental case because it's only 5, and like we were bouncing around. I did really well. I think I won the first workout, and then I did not do so well in the second, and then kind of bounced around, but ended up qualifying. And then, again, a couple claim to fames at regionals, won Linda, world record, not a big deal. And then just couldn't handstand walk, it's just too much volume for the old shouldies. I think I came like, third last in that workout. So I was first after day 1. Bill Grunler chirped me for my horrific squat cleans on Linda. You can even watch the video and he goes, "Oh, those don't look pretty." Bill, I'm in first. Like, what are you talking about? And so I always give him a bad time. I always try to remind him on Instagram that I'm not the prettiest out there or whatever. So I ended up winning that workout, doing really well, and then I came second to Vikowski in the dumbbell box jump over or step overs on that one. Last one off the handstand push-ups. Crept back on the toes to bar, crept even more back on the air bike, and then just ran train on that step over. But I had a cool conversation with Brent in the background, because I was, again, pretty bummed about my day 2. And he was like, we're built to do one thing, and it's step over the box with dumbbells. And that always kind of stuck with me going into that one. So that was cool. But and then, took a year off and back at her this year with the qualifiers. So yeah, long-winded story, but that's me.
There's so much to dig into.
Yeah, me in a nutshell. Yeah.
First things first, how old were you when you started learning your work ethic?
My mom just actually walked in too, so that's a good time.
Here.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
But my work ethic, I don't know if I could pinpoint an age where I started to develop that. Like that moment where my dad kind of said, you don't work hard enough, was definitely a big one. Because I do think even like he always told me about in camps, like I would, always kind of try to sit in the back and like wait for guys to, go. And then I would kind of just like slide in there and always looked for like the easy way out a little bit. And when he kind of gave me that dose of reality, could have done 2 things with it. It's just, shut down and kind of be like, now everyone's out to get me, or I could, buckle down and put in the work. And so I guess, 13 years old is when that really clicked. Like I always wanted to work hard, but I think I wanted the end result more than I wanted the process. And so once that hit, I started to enjoy the process. I started to enjoy working out. I started to enjoy, putting in the time. And I think that was probably the time where it really clicked. So
that's interesting. And I think that there's a lot of people in CrossFit that would like to be good at CrossFit or at sport or at life. They could take a note from just working harder at this point. So I always like to touch on it when people talk about that. Do you have any takeaways that you kind of have internalized that have helped you to work harder at things?
Yeah, I guess, if there's any takeaways, it's, I think sitting down and really trying to dig into like what you really want. So, my goals, since I started within the sport, it was to make it to the games. It hasn't happened. But there's other things like reflection. It's really hard. Like you always want the end result. You want to make the games. And I'm really, I probably should listen to my own advice more often, but, being grateful for like what you've done, what you've done so far, or the connections you've made, the friends you've made, the path you've chosen, stuff like that. So those things, if you can enjoy the process of it, like that's so important, right? And the end result, it could lead to something better too. So, there's, for people within the sport, I think it can be just because of, Instagram and how popular it is now, they can look and see all the top end people with, living that fitness life and it looks good. But that's a lot of hours in the gym that those guys and girls put in, right? So loving the process is number one. Because if you don't love it, then just stop. Just don't do it, because it's too many sacrifices you have to make.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So you've made it to regional 6 times. I mean, that in and of itself is a fantastic achievement.
RIP regional. So.
Yeah. I know. I wish that regionals would come back.
Yeah.
I missed regional. I loved regionals. Regional was great.
Yeah.
What do you see as the difference between the athletes, since you are a coach, since you are, programming and doing so much with only training, what do you see as the difference between someone like you that's able to make it into this high level athlete? And I consider, regionals athletes like high level athletes. If you make it to the games, that's freaking fantastic and, super awesome to do it. But anybody that's made it to regionals has done some serious things right. What do you see as the difference between the people that have made it to that level versus the people that haven't? Are there any things that stick out for you?
Yeah, like, I can't say like there's definitely a point. I could say that it's all about the little things, making sure your sleep's good, making sure your nutrition's dialed in, your training's on point. But I did everything wrong and ended up, still making regionals. So like for me, like, I definitely ate whatever I wanted to. I didn't really concern myself with sleep. So I probably had like a small like predisposition to doing well at suffering for whatever reason. But I definitely think that you need to, it's hard to explain, but like you have to be willing to make you have to be willing to make sacrifices. I don't know if some people want to. Some people want to be fitnessers and fitness racers for life, but they're not willing to do those things. Like, let's say, I basically stopped hanging out with people and became a hermit for, I don't know, like 5 years. And so when I think about it, it's like, yeah, maybe I didn't count my macros and maybe I didn't worry about my sleep so much, but I didn't go out Friday, Saturday night. So I'm getting 8 hours of sleep. I didn't, I rarely drink. When I do, I'm still kind of an animal, but it happens very, very few, maybe wedding season now and again. But like, I think a lot of people aren't willing to do that. I never missed a training session. If anything, I worked out too much. But I think the big thing is like from regionals to games, and that's what didn't make me to the games, because I wasn't really willing to take that extra mile, I think. But from regionals to not regionals, it's the sacrifice. Like, you have to be willing to put time into the gym. I was willing to work through injuries. Again, maybe not the smartest, but I was willing to push through it. I was willing to not miss a training session. Not just not miss a training session or I wouldn't miss a workout. It didn't matter how bad I felt. I wouldn't go out because I was too concerned that it would mess with my workout the next day. I didn't want to be hungover. I didn't want to do those things, right? So I became a hermit. And so I probably, detached myself from, my friends and things like that. And they'll tell you the same thing, but like, yeah, man, you gotta want it. And if you're not willing to sacrifice, then like, do you really do you want to miss a workout because you're kind of sleepy? And it's like, maybe I'll just skip today because I'm kind of tired. Like, that just doesn't exist in my world. I do it smarter now. I understand why I'm tired and all those boring things, but yeah, you gotta be willing to sacrifice if you want to make it to that next level, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a fairly similar story myself when getting into entrepreneurship and like shutting myself off from people. So it's really interesting that you bring it up as far as like a fitness thing. So what do you think is missing right now from you making it to your goal, now that you've had these things that you've screwed up and you've seen from a 3,600 foot view or whatever? What do you think it is that you have to fill in order to make it to the CrossFit Games?
It's like the little things. Having my nutrition dialed, like not just like, oh, am I eating enough? And like being dialed in, like having a routine with it. So I have actually a buddy, Joe Scally, who's been on me about it. And so I got to make sure I email him back, my 3 days of eating or whatever, because he's going to help me with it. But that's number one. Like, that is absolutely, I think, number one for me. And that will just tie into everything. Taking care of my body, like getting regular treatments on it, that'll be key. Making sure that my elbow and my shoulder and my knees, like I'm feeling good. Sleep, I'm pretty much dialed in. I'm feeling good about that. But it's like that little extra piece, like not just like, oh, I ate enough today, right? It's like, no, like you knew you ate enough today because your schedule, your meal prep, everything's dialed. Like, you don't think like Brent, like nerdiest human in the world, like he's dialed in, right? Like he's not leaving anything to chance. And I still leave those little things to chance, which you just can't do.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people have trouble with sleep. How do you dial your sleep in?
Yeah, I do have a pretty good sleep routine. There's things like watching TV and stuff like that I still like to do, but I've never really had a problem falling asleep. It's more staying asleep. So making sure I sleep in a dark room. I limit my caffeine from, let's generously say 3:30 in the afternoon, which used to be a little worse.
Me too.
Yeah. So yeah, we talked about that earlier. Should be like noon, and I should keep it down. But I love coffee, and I've never had a problem falling asleep. So I probably, I'm a little more lax with that. But having that sleep routine, like I do the same thing every time. Like I, have my setup. I make sure no lights are in the room. They're not peeking in, blackout blinds, stuff like that. And that usually is pretty good for me. The problem I have is waking up in the middle of the night randomly, consistently. And a lot of that's, sleep position that I'm going to try to do a little more research into. And like I'm generally sore, so I wake up and my shoulders numb or like things like that. So those are things I really want to dive into a little bit more. So I've actually gone and done, the sleep MD stuff and, been hooked up to the monitor and trying to figure out why I wake up and stuff like that. So those are things I'm trying to really dial in. Yeah.
Cool. I like it. So How many hours a day do you spend training? And being someone that likes to work really hard, how do you keep yourself from overtraining at this level?
Yeah, I train, like I used to train 2-a-days pretty well, 5 days a week with Thursday and Sunday off. And then I went down to 4 days a week, 2-a-days, with Sunday as just one longer session. And since I retired, I just went to singles. My body felt better. I got stronger. And so I'm still pretty much at singles right now, with like maybe the odd second session where it's just like, let's say like low effort or functional bodybuilding style. And then my body just feels better with that. I don't really, like, my capacity's always been very good, so I don't really need a ton of volume. I don't think. I've been at it for a lot of years too, 10 years, 9 years or whatever it is now. So for me to not overtrain is one, having confidence. That's a thing I really lack, which I think a lot of athletes can contest to at some point in their career. The confidence thing is the thing that I really struggle with. And so making sure that I'm confident in my ability, that'll limit me from overtraining. That's like number one. Because when I notice I'm overtraining, it's because I don't think I'm prepared or I don't think I'm ready. And so I start doing things outside of my program and outside of what I think I need to do. Instead of, like, if I want to go and be active, like maybe just go for a walk like we talked about earlier, right? Yeah. There's probably more benefit to my overall energy level to that than, throwing down, thrusters and air bike. Or maybe doing like my second session, if I really want something, maybe something more structural, maybe a lower effort, maybe some accessory stuff. But like knowing that I don't have to run hot all the time is something that's like, again, that's just comes down to like, do I believe in myself, right? Like there's things I need to work on for sure, but you don't like win a workout worldwide and not be good at it, sure. Right? Where I don't see that. I just see the handstand walk where I was horrific, right? And those are things that I really have to take out. So confidence is definitely number one.
Interesting. And how have you built your confidence?
It's probably like if I'm laying a foundation, I'm like I've just laid the first couple bricks. Like it's slow. Like all of a sudden, like I'll have confidence. Like I know I'm gonna crush this, and then like that little doubt seeps in. So like for me, honestly, like I think I got a lot of work to do, because I think I'm leaving a ton of potential out there just for the fact that I just don't believe in myself. And so if maybe this is me not being confident on the other end, where I probably have more than I think, but it's with everything in life. I always feel like I'm the underdog. So it's something that I work on daily, but it's something I really struggle with. It's definitely a weakness of mine. So I'm trying to slowly build up, if it's like, better, self-talk and all those different things, or reflection, being grateful for what you have. But yeah, man, it's something I definitely struggle with,
I think it's good to bring up, because I think that a lot of people struggle with it. So whether or not it's fitness or, body composition or whatever it may be. So even having you, that a lot of people look up to, talk about how you struggle with confidence is a huge thing for the people that, are looking at you and like, holy smokes, he's got a perfect body. He's got, a 6-time regional
seen my
athlete.
Calves? Let's be serious.
I mean, I've got white guy calves too. They're just
nice. Yeah,
so
they just
runner's calves,
tall
man.
tibias, right? Long tibias.
I was reading this book though. It makes us really good at like ultra running and stuff.
Oh, so really? And just better looking overall too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So. You don't want to be distracted by nice calves, right?
No. We should be running marathons probably.
Yeah. Know what? That makes sense. Yeah. My wife would tell you otherwise. The way I run, I'm just like a moose out there, just clomping around. But yeah, man. No, but like, especially with our sport, like we're like, body comp's a huge thing. Like I think it's in everything, but like if you chase the body, are you gonna like you're gonna leave performance on the table too. And I think I've always struggled with that too. I dropped to 202 and I felt really good about my body, but like I sucked. Like I was just lethargic. I was weak. I couldn't sustain high efforts. Like I was just, my performance was significantly lower, but I felt like I looked better. And then I, back up to 216 now, and the abs aren't quite as visible. The triceps are a little bigger though, but nice. It's something that like you have to be like, okay, like it's okay that I have a little bit of more, let's just say more skin right there. But like in comparison, like what's like a little bit more skin? What does that even mean, right? Like do I feel good? Yeah. Am I performing well? Yes. Yep. Am I proud of my body? Yeah, of course. Yep. yeah, I think body comp is something that gets really twisted in our sport for sure.
Oh, twisted, and then like people, because we're so like in this bubble, we look at other people that maybe have zero body fat and think that that's the standard. When if you look at as a population, we're, you know, the average person that's working out like yourself is incredibly healthy, is super lean, and we're just, you know, we have a different standard that's not realistic.
Yeah, for sure. And like even if you're going for like health, like, you know, abs don't mean healthy, right?
No.
Sometimes it can be the opposite. But I think, you know, the world has perceived, you know, health and fitness as a look instead of a feeling. So, you know, for if I can give any, you know, advice to athletes starting out is like, you know, don't chase, well, I think it's with everybody, don't chase a look or some ideal of what you think the world wants you to be, and find some more, you know, internal drive. I think is going to be massive. And I think I've dealt with that ever, you know, being like a shorter, huskier fella growing up. I think that's something that definitely, you know, stems from a young age for me, you know, being, you know, the chubby kid in class. That's something that has always stuck with me. And I get, you know, all of a sudden, like a buddy will say a joke with me, and I'm like, yeah, but like it kind of still hits me. I'm like, like too soon, man. Like go back to like 5-year-old John, where he's like super emotional about that. But I hit it, right? It still tugs on the heartstrings sometimes. So it's pretty funny where it's like, I know I'm healthy. Like, you know, I know I feel good, and, you know, I feel like I look good, and so it's weird when those things set in, right? When all of a sudden you get something, you flash back to a younger, more self-conscious you kind of creeps back in. So, you know, just, you know, finding that internal drive, that something that makes you happy. Like, don't worry about the aesthetics of it and that. It's harder, it's easier said than done, but like, especially within our sport, like it's all about performance, right? You're not getting an award because you look cut. Right. So like if you're slow, it doesn't matter if you have a 6-pack and, you know, huge shoulders, like it just doesn't matter within our sport. So chase the performance and also that internal drive. Because if you're like, I want to look good, but I want to make the games. Do you though? Comes to that sacrifice, right? Do you like, what do you actually want?
Absolutely. On that note, do you know how many calories you eat?
Roughly I'm about probably 35 to 3,800 calories.
Okay.
I lowered it since I went down to one training day. So I kind of fluctuated around like 32, 33. On a daily, I probably don't know enough of what I'm at, which is another thing that kind of we were talking about. But like I need to know exactly what I hit every night before I go to bed.
Yeah.
But on average, I'm about that when I check in with myself.
And how tall are you?
I'm 6'1.5".
Okay.
Earn that half.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, my dad's 6'5", and I was always pissed that I was never 6'5", but now in CrossFit, it's just a blessing. Yeah. And I'm just like, thank you, Mom, for being 5'1", right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and
she
you're,
didn't hear.
You know, I'm 6'1" too. I'm like, man, if I could cut an inch or two off of those calves, then they probably look bigger.
100%.
I'd be better at CrossFit because I wouldn't have to move the barbell as far and all that
totally,
stuff.
just way better, eh?
Yeah.
And if I could just shrink the arms a little bit, right? Yep. No, it's tall guy problems, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man, you know, it's something. If you want to be 6 foot in the sport, you like Fikowski, you know, came second, possible, right? Gives hope to the taller guys out there, but you do have to be that dialed in, right?
Totally.
It's not just saying all of a sudden you're short, you're good, right? But you've got to work with what you got, right? So
efficient, fast movement standards.
For sure,
it all comes in there.
Yep.
So swinging back around, when you train the one time per day, about how long is that session?
It's like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours on the long end. But
Okay.
pretty much like an hour and a half is usually the average time probably I spend within that sesh.
And at your level, how much mobility and outside of the gym or like recovery stuff are you doing?
I definitely do way more than I used to. Like I used to just do zero. Like I don't even know if I warmed up, and I just like did some arm circles and started. And now like I think about it, I'm like, think about all the repetitions you missed from like a 15-minute warm up, because I think it adds up, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're doing, you know, side planks, or you're doing, you know, reverse flies, or whatever you want to do to, you know, get your body ready to go. Like that's like just, you know, hours and hours of repetition and accumulation work that you wouldn't get otherwise. So it's not just a warm up, but it's, providing structure and support to your muscles and all those things. And so outside of that, I probably I would say like maybe a half an hour outside of my training to it.
Okay.
And if that's mobility work, or like I've always had relatively good mobility, so I've never really had to do extra amount to get into ranges. I've always been able to hit, everything pretty well. But like when the aches and pains set in, I know that I've probably been slacking, getting a little tight here and there. So I try to do about a half an hour, probably a day. On my rest days, I try to just take them off completely.
Okay.
I try not to do too much. I'll walk twice a day. But other than that, I try to just even mentally, just shut it down from being active in the gym setting.
And do you have any recovery tools that you really like that have helped you a lot in the past?
Like different like bands or like
do you have any
or...
do you have anything that has really helped you? Like for example, I would say that I've done a lot of cold therapy and that seems to be helpful and things like that.
Massage has been number one for me. I like, it's really saved my shoulder. My wife's a registered massage therapist, and so
Lucky.
That's been a lifeline, for sure. But like that's been number one, and I'm not just pumping her tires or anything, but she's the best. But yeah, that's something that's been really helpful, and that's probably saved me and saved my shoulder. And when I first pulled out of regionals, that's how I met her. Was she actually walked into the gym and I was trying out the snatch ladder, and I go for the 185 and I fail it, and I go for the 185 and I fail it, and she's standing on the other side of the gym looking for information about signing up, and I missed my last one. I got rap music playing on, and I have my belt, and I just throw it, and I'm just like, fuck. And then all of a sudden I like look over and I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? Can I help you? And she's just like, instantly she fell in love. She'd tell you otherwise, but that's for sure what it was. And gave her the spiel about it or whatever. And she's like, it was kind of cool how you could turn on a dime like that. And it was like, yeah, you're very frustrated. I could tell something wasn't going right. And then, you saw me and you're instantly like, oh, hey, like, can I help you out? And so I think she appreciated that. And then I do think she fell in love with me that first moment. So even though I couldn't snatch, she still loves me. Right. So, but, massage has been key. Yeah. I think that's probably number one. But like the recovery tool is doing less. It's probably been my most beneficial. It's just less training. That's allowed my body to actually recover.
It's interesting that you say that. And I'd like to, get into that even more, because we've talked about how you've done 2 days and then gone down to a single time. And I'm cut from the same cloth. So like more is better, and then you burn yourself out and you can't do anything. So how do you really interpret that for yourself, but then also for other athletes that you're coaching or people that are listening? How do they know when to turn it off?
Oh yeah, man. Like you said, like you get it, right? We had this conversation before, like you something internal about loving to sit in that dark place and just like hold on longer than other people can or other people want to, because you almost like crave it, right? What I try to tell my athletes is, there's a guy I can think of, I just love him to death, and he'll probably know that I'm talking about him, but he just loves to grind, and I love it about him. So getting him to slow down is always tough, but, I think just having constant communication with intent with the athlete is key. Like, what do you want? Do you want to make the games, or do you want to get better? Do you want to do this? Like, this will help you. Trust me, I've been there. I think having trust with your athletes, number one, do they trust what you're talking about, right? And then always coming back, like if, something happens and they overtrain and they have a little tweak, trying to revert back, not scold them or anything, but like be like, hey, like this is why we're talking about it. Like, you hurt your back or your shoulder, your knee or whatever. Like, let's look back at your training. How much extra work did you do? Oh yeah, I did this and this. So like for me, like I could still grind my face off. Like if I had, 2 months to live, the first thing I would do is just work out as much as I possibly could. Like that's probably, people would be like, you're an idiot. Like, but I'm like, yeah, like that's something I absolutely love. Right. And I wouldn't worry about overtraining. Right. Cause I, only have 2 months left. So I'd overtrain my face off. Right. But yeah, you just gotta, you gotta tell yourself that, it's, I guess I still struggle with it, but what's your goal? Like, do you just want to overtrain? Well, go do that, but you won't make the game. So like if this is me talking to me, You won't make the games by doing that because you'll be weaker, you'll be more tired, you'll get injured. So like, yeah, I love doing that. But does it match with my overall goal? No, it doesn't. Okay, well then be smarter, right? But you know, what do you think about that? How do you kind of manage that?
It's a great question. I struggle, and I talk with people like yourself that, you know, I think are smarter than me, and I try and get information, and I use things like Whoop, and not that I think something like Whoop is an end all be all, but I try and take all of these different metrics and put them together and then test out things like you're saying. Like I went to 4 days a week for a little while where I was only training 4 days a week, about an hour and a half at a time, and saw some gains from those types of things. So I haven't found the answer, but you know, I kind of like the process. It's like anything else. It's cool to go through the process, and training is a process. Figuring out what your recovery should be is a process. So, you know, if you figure it out, let me know, and I'll do the same. I'll let you know if I figure it out. But it's kind of this fun thing where like how much can you train to get the maximum amount of results without falling off the cliff?
Yeah, because you know it's interesting because we live in a sport that promotes, you know, overtraining more or less, right? Always going hard, always doing more, at least like early on. And now it's more people are becoming, you know, training less, resting, recovering is very important, and it's nice to see that. But we also live in a sport where trying to disconnect from your body when things get dark is something that we do, and we do very well. Like, okay, you're on the air bike, you know, I don't feel my legs, you know, you go somewhere else, you shut it off. Where like, we got to be very body aware, but we also have to disconnect, because it's like, do you really want to feel your legs on the air bike when you're doing air bike sled pushes, thrusters, your legs are blowing up? No, you want to disconnect. You want to, like, it's like that car ride, you forget how you got there. That's what you almost want to have a workout be like, right? You don't want to actually feel the pain. You have to disconnect. So I think we do that a lot. So I think it's tough for us to reconnect with our body at the end of the day, where it's like, you know, we go, oh, I have an ache and pain. No, I'm fine. No, I'm good. Oh, I actually feel awesome. So you almost get that like self-talk where you're talking yourself out of things, where you can be like, it's okay, you're tired. You just like murdered yourself for 2 hours. Like you should be tired. You should have your rest day tomorrow. So like reconnecting with the body is going to be really big and really key for us, especially for people that, like we always want to go hard. We love it. But you know, that mental side of like disconnecting, I think that's a spot that maybe we don't talk about enough. Right. Yeah. Because, you know, no one wants to look weak or look like they're not training, hard enough. Right. So, you know, just like internally looking back, and I think it can go the other way. I think people can be like, ooh, I'm a little tired today. I think I'm just going to take another rest day, and they can start missing those workouts. So finding that balance is going to be really key, and it's really hard for people, right? Yeah. So always seeking out, like you said, seek out people. I do it all the time. I seek out people that are way smarter than me. And, you know, I think my experience is where I shine, where I can, you know, relate to people, and I can relate to, you know, concerns that people have or stresses that they have, because, you know, I feel like I've been there and I've done it. So I think that's something where I really strive, over and above, you know, knowledge base. I think there's guys that can talk shop probably a lot better than I can. But I feel like I can relate to, I'm just, you know, that people's coach, you know, I can relate, to the struggles and stuff like that, because I've been there. So
speaking of coaching, do you have a coach?
I do, yeah. And so I do a combination. I follow, you know, Dave, you know, he's going to fix my snatch and do all those good things and make me super strong. But I also have Sam Smith, which I've been with for the last year, from Big Dogs. And, you know, he was just down here the other weekend, and we threw down, and you know, he's been really helpful. I was with Mike Fitzgerald from OPT before that, and he, you know, I think it was actually Mitch or Joe or Brent. It was at an open workout down at Rocky Point CrossFit in the Lower Mainland, and you know, that's how I got kind of connected with Mike Fitzgerald, and because I was just like, you know, doing 275 grace horrifically and like doing random stuff, and they just looked at me like, man, like, go talk to Mike, like, like figure your shit out. And so I was with Mike for a couple years, and he definitely opened my eyes to a whole different way of training. I just remember like he'd give me like an increasing effort work, you know, 5 rounds of whatever. And it's like, increase your pace each set. And I looked at it, I'm like, how about I just go hard every round? Like, see you, Mike. And then I'd be like, yeah, that was awesome. And he's like, so how'd it go? I'm like, I don't know if I increased my pace. I probably got worse. And he goes, yeah, like little things like, yeah, no, that's not correct. Like, do this and this. And I remember just being like, opening my eyes, like, what? Like, I don't have to like redline. I don't have to send it like 24/7. And it was eye-opening to my training, and definitely helped me grow as an athlete and a coach. So yeah, and now, jumping on with the Only guys, just again, expose myself to better and better coaches. And yeah, it's going to be, I'm really excited about where I am right now. I don't feel like I probably left stuff on the table, but I do like where I'm at and kind of where things are heading and the people I'm in contact with and the people I've surrounded myself with within the sport. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I definitely am a huge advocate of surrounding myself with the people that I want to be like or learn from constantly. I think that's a huge attribute. So it's cool to hear you say that. I'd love to know, number one, how you go about picking a coach. And number two, I'd also like, before we get into that, touching on this idea of not sending it all the time. Because we kind of talked about this before the podcast, and how it can be an attribute to pace or not go 100% to the dark place all the time, even though, let's say that there's a workout that comes up and we just want to hit it hard and hold on, essentially. Yeah. So if you could, number one, go tell us about pacing or not sending it all the time, and then how to pick a coach.
Yeah, so like to pick a coach, I think experience is key, especially within our sport. I've talked with Dave about it a lot. If you don't understand, it could be with every sport, but like with ours, like if you don't understand how it feels to perform a certain workout, like you just have never done it, doesn't mean you have to be a games athlete or anything, but if you don't know how it feels to kind of go into that dark place, or you don't know how it feels like to recover from a heavy weightlifting session, or if you haven't gone through that stuff, I think it's really hard to relate to the client. So as a client, I definitely look for people that have been there. Mike been at the games, Sam competed at a regional level, Dave competed at a regional level, Mitch competed at a games level, but
damn near games level.
yeah, like that's a he like ridiculously unreal athlete. Dave as well, also unbelievable weightlifter. Look for people that have done it, and then have a conversation with them. And if they know what they're talking about, and you feel comfortable with them, and you've built a rapport, I don't think there's, I think that's kind of like the perfect harmony. Have they been there? Can you relate to them? Are they saying the right things? Do your own research within your sport too. Know your sport, because if you go to a person who, let's say even though they're a games athlete, and they start talking about all these different things, and you've done your research, and you're like, well, that doesn't actually make any sense. Like maybe they're just trying to sell you snake oil. But how would you know that if you didn't know about energy systems or strength training? If you just go in blindfolded, I don't think that's good either. I think you need to do some research within your sport, and then you can relate to what the coach is saying. Because if they're spitting off stuff that's way above your level, and you're like, what? Then you might take everything they say to heart, or you might just not be able to retain anything they say or whatever. So like, understand your sport, feel comfortable with the coach, and have that coach have experience within the sport of CrossFit. I think really those are probably the three main things.
Cool. Love it. And then sending it.
Yeah.
And like I said, we had a conversation about this earlier. I tried to do a workout that you actually programmed, and it was at 80 to 85%, or it was either you or Dave that programmed it, I'm not sure. And it was really hard. So we had a good conversation about that. How do you tackle that when we're in a sport where it looks like everybody is sending it all the time, and that's how you get better?
Yeah. Simple. If you send it all the time, you're just going to burn out. Like it's just inevitable. It might not be tomorrow. It might be, 2 years down the road, but it's going to happen. And I do believe you're going to leave a lot on the table, because recovery is everything, right? And if you're just sending it every single day, like we were talking about earlier, so you gain 15 extra reps in a workout that doesn't matter, but you're back sore tomorrow, so you can't lift correctly, or you have DOMs like 2 minutes after your workout. Like I was talking about DT, that qualifier. Like if I did that every day, I would never train. Like I would eventually be broken. And I think that's what's happened throughout my CrossFit career, is that I definitely overtrained and I became broken. There's 2 years where I couldn't compete in a full regional weekend. Well, I did too much, right? And so, you have to learn how to pace. I think you can also learn how to really understand yourself as well. So like if you're able to work under different intensities, you're able to understand, where your limitations are. You're able to change gears if you have to. So if there's a movement that, really elevates your heart rate or really just bags you, knowing how to pace that workout and then knowing how to increase it at other areas you are strong at, or maybe you have to slow down, if you smash ring muscle ups, but, doing the 10 unbroken's gonna, fatigue your arms just enough that you can't, string whatever it is. Knowing how to pace yourself is going to be so huge, and you're just going to gain so much more knowledge about yourself if you can work under 50, 60, 70, 80, 100%. Because then there's times where you really need to send it. So like if you're always doing a workout at 100% of what you think is 100% effort for, let's say, 8 minutes all the time, are you really going 100%? Because at some point you're in survival mode, right? And I think that's a pretty common conversation that's been going around in our CrossFit world now is like, do we really go 100% all the time too? Like, I think it's important to like hit the air bike for 15 seconds and just go ham, go at 110% effort, which, or, if it's mixed modal, going 100% effort for a minute and then fully recovering. Like you got to hit those different intensities. So, I think we need to learn how to not send it and how to actually send it. Right. And then everywhere in the middle is key. Yeah.
And how have you figured out what that feels like for you?
Yeah, that's tough. Lots of years of experience, like, 85% effort. Let's say I get, it probably gets thrown around there a lot in that kind of energy system work. Understanding what that is it's just like a lot of practice. It's slowing down. So like, I know what it feels like to like hold onto the bar until I can't, and then hold onto the bar until I can't, and have that slowly drop. But how do you pace out your workout so that you can, keep the same pace up throughout the 10 minutes or whatever it is? It just takes practice. It takes, putting the ego aside a little bit, slowing down maybe more than you think you have to. And then after the workout, reflecting on how you feel. That's big too. Or, mid-workout, connecting with your body back in, maybe not shutting off, right? Being like, okay, after these clean and jerk, okay, I feel pretty good. Okay, that's a good pace. Or, after these ring muscle ups, oh my God, I can't see straight. Like I have to slow down. Okay, well then at least and you'll fail sometimes. You'll be like, I went way too slow. Or you'll speed up or be like, I went way too fast. That's probably easier to do for guys like us. Yep. But if it's fine to mess up and to try things and to be like, okay, well, I held threes, but it was just too much, and I my pace slowed way down, right? I think recording your times is obviously always a big thing for us, but like recording your rounds, you got 5 rounds of something that's going to take you 15 minutes, and your first round was 2:30, and your last round was 5:30. It's like, well, if you didn't at least be aware of the clock and be aware of your rounds, how would you know that you were that far off, right? If you just like, oh, took me 15 minutes, awesome, smashed it.
Yep.
Right? Be like, well, the first round took me 3 and the last round took me 3. Well, that's pretty consistent, right? So like when you go into competition, I think that just gives you so much more ammo.
Absolutely. Yeah. And something that I've found that's interesting, like I'm really bad at this, so I think I'm really interested in hearing how you attack it. Is I've had my watch and I'll put the lap timer on, so I don't have to like actually look and think about it, because I can't think during the workout. I can hardly, fair enough. Yeah. I can hardly count, man. Yeah, I'll get done with the round, and sometimes it's not even the end of the round because I can't think. But I'll try and I'll click the lap timer, and at the end I'll go back and look at my Garmin or whatever and just review what you're saying there, and that's been super helpful. To change gears just a little bit, do you take any supplements?
Just creatine, just for the pump.
Just creatine for the pump.
And I take creatine. I've done some research on it, and I'm probably off of it for a while, but I feel really good on it. My body responds well, and I think there's some good evidence that it may it may help. You know, other than that, protein, you know, I try to take more or less for me, just to make sure that I'm getting enough, you know, calories, enough protein in and stuff like that. I'm not a end all be all with, you know, this protein's going to, you know, make or break my training session. I try to take a carb replacement as well, or, you know, if I can't get a carbohydrate in after I work out, I really like to, you know, make sure I get those in, you know, 30 minutes after I work out kind of thing. I always just feel better on it, my recovery wise. So sometimes I'll do that. And then I just take, like, you know, fish oils, you know, multivitamins. That's pretty well it. Like, I'm pretty basic. Like, I'm not very exciting. Like, I don't have anything I super plug, or maybe just because no one knows who I am and no one's giving me that sponsorship or whatever.
I mean, somebody should. If somebody's listening to this and you've got some really super creatine product.
Like if you're Purple K and you just want to like tap into the 15-year-old me that's dying, like, you know, I've never really been big into it, into supplements that way. I think there's probably a lot of benefit, especially to help, you know, people like us that just push the limits. But I think if you can do the little things, like, you know, making sure you're chewing your food and making sure you're drinking water and your nutrition is dialed in, I think a lot of those things can clear up issues. Yep. But yeah, no, and that's kind of like, you know, my approach to it. I like to keep it simple that way.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing too. And I bring up the question because a lot of people ask me, you know, what supplements do you like to take and blah, blah, blah. And it always comes back to, you know, well, how's your diet? Is your food that you're taking in, you know, really good and nutritious? And then are you looking at the supplements that you're taking?
Well, it's like right in the name. It's supplements. It should, you know, like supplement an already balanced lifestyle, or supplement already like it's not like, oh, you take NO Explode and you're going to PR every day. No, your eyes might blow out of your head, but like if anything, over reliance on supplements is going to have the opposite effect. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Mentally and physically, like I drink enough coffee, don't need a pre-workout. Right. Just don't. No. Or if I'm like, oh, I didn't get my protein in, I'm brutal now. Like I'm all of a sudden 100 pounds less on my snatch. I can't afford that, right? So, you know, mentally, like you got to make sure that it is balanced. Like, if you have that strong base, like the supplements can only just help you out. They're not going to make or break it for sure. And that's for like general health to professional athletes, right? If you're dialed in, like everything else is just kind of gravy.
Yep. Heard it here, guys. That's why I talk so much about kale and spinach. So,
kale and spinach is the way to go. Yeah.
Way more interesting than creatine, although creatine gets all the rap.
Oh, yeah. It's just so good, right? You just look way better on it. Back in the day, I just remember, you know, GNC go back into the case or whatever, and they got to get the key out and they like slide out the Purple K, and you look like you're looking around for cops or your parents, or you're like, oh, they don't know I'm on the creatine. Like, I love it. So, I've just always kind of felt good on it. So just keep it rolling.
Yeah, that's cool. Like a side note, a funny story is when I was growing up, my mom had to go with me into the GNC.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's the best. Yeah.
And she like did the research beforehand to make sure it was safe, and luckily I'm still here. So.
That's hilarious. Yeah. My parents didn't want me on the creatine, and so I had to sneak it.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I remember where did I keep it? Probably under the bed, or like with my Pokemon cards or something like that. Somewhere
Does your mom know this? I mean,
she can't hear. No, I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah, but man, if she knew I was on it still now, she'd probably be rattled. No. But yeah, it's so funny how those stupid little things work, eh?
Yeah.
You think you're just such a badass. It's like you're just having creatine, man. Relax. Yeah.
What about being a high level athlete is the most fun for you, and what about being a high level athlete is the most difficult for you?
The most fun, I love training. So like I love training to be a high level athlete, if that makes sense. You know, even if I was retired, like really retired, I'd probably train in some capacity. And I do like that. I do like striving for something. I've never really enjoyed the actual competing side of CrossFit, which is weird. I do like the winning side of like doing well, but like I always get really stressed out and I get really nervous and stuff like that. But the training stuff I just really enjoy. I love it. I love coming in every day and having a purpose and giving my full effort into it. That's the process of it. Of specifically training and working out is probably my favorite for sure. Yeah. And then the people you meet is awesome. Made some great friendships along the way. I think that you can take for granted within that as well. I think that stuff's really cool. Going to competitions, being able to relate, meet people like you and chat and build friendships, and that is really awesome. And then the least favorite part of it is definitely the stress of it all. The mental stress it can get exhausting. The physical stress of being in pain, like I think it's a big thing going on in professional sports with Andrew Luck, Gronkowski retiring at 29. Like our bodies get put through a lot. Like, am I going to enjoy the day where I don't have to push through something if I don't want to? Probably, yeah. At least to a point. So I think the constant okay, I'm exhausted, or okay, I'm this. I think that part can definitely get to you. And so that's probably something I don't overly enjoy. Having to always kind of like wake up and be like, no, I got this. I have a purpose to what I'm doing. So yeah, that stress mentally and physically, definitely it takes a toll for sure. But it's probably also the thing I love. I love being tired. I love, feeling accomplished that way. So I think it's a little Jekyll and Hyde thing there as well. But yeah, the stress of competition probably too. I probably will be happy when it's over, even though I technically retired and then came back because I missed it. Like, it makes no sense. Just a walking contradiction. But I think what you love is maybe also what you don't love at the same time.
Right.
You love the sport, but the sport also has a price, right? It's going to be nice to be able to, have a beer and not feel guilty about it, right? Even though my lifestyle isn't real conducive to that, it'd be nice to have that stress away. Sure. A little bit more, where it's like, oh man, like I ate that slice of pizza, like I better get it dialed in, like not because like I shouldn't have pizza every day, but like just because it's like, am I doing everything I can, right, to for my overall goal? I think that can be. I think you can probably relate that to anything, but that's something that's definitely very stressful about competing at a high level. So.
Sure, it's kind of one of those things for high achievers where it's like that you need to do the thing that is stressful in order to reach your goals. Yeah. So it feels good once you've done them, or even like if you compete enough, then it becomes less stress.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I think you the grass is always greener too. Like you want to live that muggle lifestyle, but then all of a sudden you're there and you're just like, nah, this isn't me. I like to throw down, and I like to be around people like-minded like that. And so, yeah, man, it's I think it all comes down to, what you truly want. And as long as it still aligns with what you want, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of these questions have come up from people that I've asked, what do they want to know about high-level athletes like yourself? And something that I say for towards the end here, what I think is interesting is, do you ever feel like giving up? And if so, what keeps you going when you feel like quitting or giving up?
Oh, I probably feel like quitting every day. It's probably like, the people don't want to hear that or say it out loud, but like you probably have doubts all the time. You miss a lift. Why am I doing this? You wake up tired. Why am I doing this? Like, I think that goes into your mind all the time. But I think the moment when you can't pick yourself up out of it, I think that's the time you need to shut her down, where it just doesn't matter what you say. Like it's just something that like you just can't kind of convince yourself to keep doing. What I do to talk myself out of it when I have those doubts, I probably talk to the people that I trust, with that, my family, and my friends, and, talk with them and about that, and just saying it out loud, like, I'm shit. I'm not fit. And then they're like, give your head a shake. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. Dose of reality is nice. Yeah, you're right. I think that's nice. So surrounding yourself with the right people is always a good support system, is always helpful. But internally, I don't know, man, like that confidence issue, I got to figure out, but it definitely creeps in, probably day to day in small amounts. But that overall, you gotta believe in yourself, right? And so like I've always done this, like if it's listened to motivational whatever, if it's like, I remember looking at like motivational bodybuilding videos because they were always the best on YouTube, and you just get jacked up, and I did that all the time. And I listened to like people like with positive talk, and you seek those things out over time. You can start to learn those tools. And so when you're in a funk, it's like, okay, how do I get out of it? Okay, well you do those affirmations, and you get jacked up, and you have that routine, and then you have that like just gnarly fire and passion for what you're doing, that just outweighs it all. It outweighs all the doubt. And so I want to make the games. If that happens, awesome. If it doesn't, I'm gonna grind until I can't grind anymore. That fire I thought was out, and it just wasn't even close. So that internal drive is just there, and it just outweighs all the doubt I have. Yeah.
I love it. What do you tell somebody when they come to you and they say, hey man, I want to be a high level CrossFit athlete and make it to, since we don't have regionals now, sanctional or something like that. I want to be in the elite class. What do you tell them?
What do you think it takes to get there? And then you can see how either close they are to the actual answer or how disconnected they are from it. Because there's no one answer to it. But if someone's like, it's like, so what do you think it takes? It's like, well, you gotta train your face off, and you gotta, dial in your nutrition. It's like, okay, awesome. Yeah. And then, so how are you going to do that? And it's like, well, I'm going to train my face off, and I'm going to dial in my nutrition. It's like, okay, awesome. So like, let's go like day to day. Let's break it down. Like, these are what you need to do. This is what you need to do. It's like, oh yeah, but I go out Friday nights. It's like, okay, well, you don't do that anymore. Or you do it once a month, or you still live, but like that's not your priority anymore. And then you start having these conversations, you start dialing it in, because it's like, are you willing to sacrifice a lot of your life for this? Like if you want to be a games athlete, if you want to be a high level athlete, you have to sacrifice, and you just find out if they're willing to, and you find out where they are. So it's like, is it a dream, or is it like a passion, right? Are they just thinking they want to, or do they actually? And it might not take one conversation, probably won't. It'll probably take like a month of training, 2 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it does. But you ask them, like, what do you think it takes? And then, well, this is what my experience is. This is what I believe it takes to get to that top end. I've done all those things, and I still haven't made it. I still have a lot of room to improve on. So yeah, it's more than you think. But it's like, I don't know, it's a cool life to live, at least to strive for it. So it's just, as long as it's something that they want to do. Yeah, man. You gotta want it, right? And you gotta be willing to sacrifice a little and sacrifice a lot to get there. So see if they're willing to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. In wrapping it up, is there anything that we haven't talked about that we should have talked about that you can think of? And I realize that's kind of a loaded question, because we could probably talk for hours about things. So
yeah, probably Dave's arches would probably be number one. Dave Spur, coach at Only, he is, he has the weakest arches in the game. And if no one knows about Dave's arches, we are gonna, my plan is to film of him working out where it's primarily arch work, and just so everybody can just see how much joy his the pain in his arches brings to everybody else. I remember a workout we had at in Vernon, and it was Jeremy Meredith, Tyson, Fikowski, myself. We were all down there training, and Dave was working out, and it was kind of like a pre-regionals comp, and we did a workout. I don't even remember what it was, and Dave's arches blew up literally every workout we did, but like guys were having to rip his shoes off, and like it's just my arches is the greatest thing ever. So if you don't know about his arches, like we got to let the world know, like this is something pretty special.
We'll see if we can find a video or something.
There's got to be a picture. Fitzy might have it, or I'll see if Jeremy does, but it's just the glory in his eyes when that arch pain sets in, it brings joy to me. So,
So if we can find one of these videos or pictures, we're going to put it on the show notes page, and that's going to be at thegetbetterproject.com/24. So if we did a good job, it will be sitting there. And if not, maybe, I'm going to try and find some images and or videos of your 100 wall balls and maybe your attire that you were wearing in regionals.
Oh yeah,
with the Nike Freeze. I'm going to
Nike Freeze, my Gong Show hat.
Yep.
You should also the 50 deadlifts. That was pretty impressive too. So like the rowing deadlift, box jump over, dips, and then you have wall balls, and then you have to go back on the deadlifts. Did 50 unbroken at 185, carried the bar over. Spine wasn't straight one time. I don't even think standing my spine was straight. On the 50 wall balls, didn't put the wall ball down. Didn't do it unbroken. I thought it would be a good idea just to hold on to the wall ball while you did it, right? Because 4 is lava, right?
Yeah.
So, God, like there's so many just ridiculous things. But like, I wish I could go back to those days where like you just like in competition, it didn't matter. Like you're just like, I'm doing these unbroken. Don't care how tired I am. Right. Don't care how unrealistic and horrible strategy it is, right? So that like you could just tap into that like inner you, where he just didn't care. That would be the best, because I think when you get more experience, you think too much, right? Like I just want to black out and just carry that bar over. Get back to those days. Those would be the best.
Just learn what you're made of.
Exactly. Yeah. Like why did you do that? Not one person did that. I'm like, yeah, not one person did that. Like they must all be brutal. And it's like, no, they're smart and they paced it out. And it's like, well, I came third in that workout. So.
Oh man. I love it. So we're going to try and find a highlight video of you and put it on the show notes page. So I'm going to do some work. It might take me an extra week to get this podcast up just because of that. So hopefully I'll have something really good for you guys. Let's talk last thing about Only Training. Let's plug that and plug, where people can follow you. So if you could tell us about what Only Training is, if they didn't listen to the last podcast, how they can get involved with you as a coach and or follow you as you, crush this path to the games.
Yeah, man. Only Training. I got on board with Dave Spur and Mitch Barnard. I kind of just heard them little rumblings about it. And so I messaged them and said, hey, like, I kind of like what you're talking about. Get me involved somehow. So we got on the phone and we connected, and, we're an athlete's training blog. So paid training blog. We also have a free blog where people can kind of try out our workouts through the paid training blog. There's going to be, intense and extra work and stuff like that. But these are, we understand like, a one-on-one coach is a lot of it's an investment, right? Some people don't have that type of investment or aren't willing to put in the time maybe just yet. We believe that we've created a program that allows people to experience high-level coaching at a price that's affordable, maybe for now or forever. And we believe that we're doing something different within the training format. Being able to learn when to bring it down, learn when to bring it up. We believe we do a very good job at that, and that's something that we're extremely passionate about. And we want to reach as many people as possible. So we don't want to handcuff ourselves to just a small group of people. We do take individual clients if you're looking for that next level, or if you're rehabbing from an injury or whatever, you just like that intimate setting, we do that as well. And again, we really enjoy that. We love doing that. We love having one-on-one clients, but we can have a broader reach, through a blog. And if we can impact more people to train a little smarter, and train a little better, and be part of an unreal community, I think that's our main mission. And we do love the community. Like, we're all beauties out there, right? So like we're cool people to hang out with. At least we think so. Maybe not Mitch, but we love having, we use SugarWOD for our programming, and we have a good community in there, and you can follow the leaderboard, and you can chat, and you can chirp, and you can give each other fist bumps and stuff like that, which is really awesome. And we want to build that only community, the people that, love to rep the brand and love to train hard and, learn about themselves and learn a new style of training that we think is missed, especially in the training blog format.
Sure.
And so we're really excited about that, really passionate. You can find us on Only Training on Instagram, or Training Only, I think is the way it goes. And then our website is Training Only, I believe, as well. And yeah, if you can always DM me at Gib _only training. And if you have any questions, I don't have very many followers, so I'll get back to you right away. And yeah, we're excited. We feel like we can help, help fill the gap in that's, from the personalized fitness world to the, group blogging or group training world, where we can find that place in the middle where we're impacting, the most people. And I'm stuttering here, but we're relaying our experience and what we've done and what we've succeeded with and what we've struggled with. And I think we have a really good team setting that way. And actually, we just added Emily Tanner as well, who's going to fix my handstand push-ups. Nice. So I got Dave fixing my snatch, Emily fixing my handstand push-ups, and Mitch hopefully fixing my portfolio. So, we're hitting it at all angles there, right? And then I'm just there for the comic relief, I guess, right? They just keep me around. I'm a good locker room guy, right? Good, put on the good tunes, like get everyone fired up, right? Yeah. Not a ton of skill, but like just nice guy to hang out with. Like you want to get to the arena because I'm there, right?
Yeah. 100, 150 wall balls in a row.
All day.
That's it.
All day long.
Yeah. No big deal.
No big deal. Yeah.
So guys, if you haven't listened to the podcast that we did, that was the one before this at thegetbetterproject.com/23, where they talk in depth about Only Training, you should definitely do that. It's a very innovative, interesting concept and program that I think is awesome. So I would highly recommend that you check that out, and definitely follow Jon on Instagram because he said he needs more followers, and
that'll bring my confidence up for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it brings all of our confidence up.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. That's what it is.
How many people are following you? That's it.
That's
determines if you're a good person or not.
I think this day and age, that's what high schoolers are ranking their popularity on. So if we want to be like high schoolers, and
it makes perfect sense. Yeah. I'll chop my hair off, get a fade, right?
Yeah, I mean,
tight pants.
Totally. Anything you could do to stand out. Instagram.
You know what I've seen with young kids actually right now is it's like Champion's coming back, right? You see Champion everything. You know what I've seen kids wear into the gym? They roll in with those like high top like Champion socks.
Really?
And I'm just like, I have like 800 pairs of those from Costco. Oh. And like they were never cool when I grew up. Like they were the ones that you had like underneath, like in your snow boots and everything. And now kids are just like flocking and running at like big high. And I'm just like, what? Like you literally go to Costco and get like 800 pairs, and they probably bought them for like $30 from like a specialty store. I'm like, what's going on here? Like this is no good. Yeah. So yeah, that one blew my mind, and I'm into this. I'm all about that sock game too, but like I'm not going back into the Champion sock world.
I don't
get
even,
a clue.
I don't even know what to say.
What's going on with
that.
the youth?
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I don't understand it at all. But
well, what are you gonna do? Right?
This is the kind of stuff that you're gonna get if you follow Jon on Instagram, though.
Yeah, socks and sandals.
Yeah,
that's real life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, comfort and style.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jon, this has been awesome. I appreciate your time, and maybe we'll do it again sometime. This has been cool.
Man. No, thanks for stopping by, PG.
Absolutely. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, my man.
Hey guys, that was my interview of 6-time CrossFit Regionals athlete Jon Gibson. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Jon's just a fantastic guy, and I highly recommend that you get behind him and root him on this CrossFit and the next CrossFit seasons as he tries to make it to the CrossFit Games. I also recommend that you check out the show notes at thegetbetterproject.com/Jon Gibson. And make sure you're following Jon on all of his social channels because he posts some really cool stuff. So if you guys have any questions at all, hit me up, Joe at thegetbetterproject.com. Again, I hope you enjoyed this interview with Jon Gibson, and I will see you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Get Better Project, hosted by Joe Bauer. If you'd like to leave us a podcast review, head over to thegetbetterproject.com/iTunes. Now get going and take action on something that will make you better today.